My name is Rachel Monroe, and I'm 34 years old. I live in a small town in Kentucky, surrounded by rolling hills and endless skies. You might find it hard to believe that an ordinary woman like me could encounter something so extraordinary, but what I experienced changed my life forever. It all happened on the night of December 17th, when I died and stood face to face with Jesus himself. Before we dive into the shocking truth he revealed about the mark of the beast, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you love Jesus as much as we do, be sure to subscribe to this channel, hit the like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss inspiring stories like this. Now, let's talk about what happened in my near-death experience that will leave you speechless. It started as an ordinary evening. I was driving home after a long day at work, my mind racing with thoughts about bills, deadlines, and everything in between. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting a soft amber glow over the road ahead. Suddenly, a blinding set of headlights appeared out of nowhere. Before I could react, there was a deafening crash. Pain shot through my body, sharp and overwhelming, before everything went silent. The world around me faded into darkness, and I felt myself slipping away. There was no more pain, only a strange, weightless sensation, as if I were being lifted out of my body. Then, in an instant, I was somewhere else. The air was different, thicker, charged with an otherworldly energy. I was standing in a tunnel of light, brighter and purer than anything I had ever seen. A deep sense of peace washed over me, but it was soon replaced by fear. I wasn't alone. Voices, soft but commanding, whispered truths I wasn't ready to hear. My life flashed before my eyes, every decision, every sin. And then, in the distance, I saw him, Jesus, standing with an outstretched hand. What he revealed next changed everything. When I saw Jesus standing before me, I froze. His presence was overwhelming yet comforting, like the embrace of a long-lost friend and the sheer awe of standing before a king. His face shone with a light so pure it seemed to reach into the depths of my soul, illuminating everything I had ever done, thought, or felt. The space around us was unlike anything I'd ever seen. The ground was like glass, reflecting a brilliant light that had no discernible source. Colors swirled in the air, golden hues, soft blues, and radiant whites, blending in ways that felt alive, as though creation itself were breathing. In the distance, I saw angelic beings, their forms shimmering and their voices like a melody I couldn't quite grasp. Jesus stepped closer, and his eyes met mine. They weren't just looking at me, they were looking through me, past every mask, every pretense, and straight into the heart of who I was. I wanted to speak, but no words came. My soul felt bare, exposed to a love so intense it brought me to my knees. "Rachel," he said, his voice both gentle and commanding. It resonated deep within me, like a song that had always been there but I had never heard. "You are here because there is something you must see. What I will show you is not just for you. It is for all who will listen." I nodded, tears streaming down my face, unable to do anything else. Jesus extended his hand, and as I reached for it, the space around us shifted. In an instant, we were no longer in the radiant realm. We stood in what looked like a vast, endless plain shrouded in darkness. The air was heavy, thick with a sense of dread. I felt the chill of fear creeping up my spine. "Where are we?" I managed to whisper. "This is the realm where truth is revealed," Jesus said. His tone was grave, yet his presence was a source of comfort. "And now I will show you the truth about the mark of the beast." The plain suddenly came alive with visions. I saw people from all walks of life, young and old, rich and poor, standing in line. They looked exhausted, their eyes hollow, as if all hope had been drained from them. On their foreheads and hands, a symbol began to appear, a mark that pulsed with an eerie, dark glow. "What is this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "It is the mark," Jesus replied, his voice filled with sorrow. "It represents allegiance, a choice made by each soul. Many take it without understanding its eternal cost. Others choose it willingly, seeking power, comfort, or survival in a world that demands conformity to lies. The scene shifted again. I saw families torn apart, friends turning on one another, and lives consumed by fear. Those who refused the mark were ostracized, persecuted, and denied basic rights. The weight of their suffering was immense, yet their faces shone with an inner light, a peace that transcended their circumstances. I turned to Jesus, desperate for answers. Why must it be this way? Why does the mark hold so much power? He looked at me, his expression filled with both compassion and urgency. The mark is not merely a symbol, it is a seal of spiritual allegiance. To accept it is to reject the truth of God and embrace deception. But understand this, no one is forced to take it. Every soul has a choice. That choice, Rachel, is what determines their eternity. My heart ached as I watched the suffering unfold before me. But how will people know? How can they resist when the world is so blind? Jesus placed a hand on my shoulder, and a sense of calm washed over me. That is why I am revealing this to you. The time is near when this truth will no longer be hidden. You must share what you have seen. Tell them to seek the truth in my word, to pray for discernment, and to trust in me, no matter the cost. For those who stand firm in their faith will be given the crown of life. The visions began to fade, replaced once again by the radiant light of the heavenly realm. I was overwhelmed, my heart heavy with the weight of what I had witnessed, yet filled with a renewed sense of purpose. Rachel, Jesus said, his voice tender now, this truth will not be easy to share. Many will doubt you, mock you, even turn away. But remember, you are not alone. I am with you always. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. I'll do it, Lord. I'll tell them. I'll share the truth about the mark of the beast. As he smiled, the light grew brighter, and I felt myself being pulled back. The next thing I knew, I was gasping for air, back in my broken body. My heart was pounding, my lungs burning, but I was alive, and I knew my mission was just beginning. As I lay on that heavenly plain, still trembling from the visions of the mark of the beast, Jesus turned to me with a solemn expression. His voice carried the weight of eternity. Rachel, what I show you now will unveil the spiritual battle that rages unseen. The enemy's plan is cunning, but my truth will shine brighter for those who seek it. The air around us shifted again, and I was drawn into a series of vivid revelations, each more startling than the last. The first vision began with a church, filled with people singing hymns. It was a scene of beauty and tradition, but as I looked closer, I saw something alarming. Many were going through the motions, singing with their lips but not their hearts. They were distracted, some on their phones, others thinking of their next meal or their weekly plans. Jesus said, "This is how the enemy begins, through distraction and spiritual apathy. He does not need to turn every heart cold. He only needs them lukewarm." A passage from Revelation echoed in my mind. "Because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth." Revelation 3:16. Jesus continued, "The world's comforts lull many into complacency. They do not see the chains that bind them until it is too late. Tell them to awaken, to seek me with all their hearts, for time is shorter than they know." The scene shifted abruptly. I saw a city bustling with life, people walking, laughing, working, until suddenly sirens wailed. Darkness fell over the city, and chaos erupted. I saw wars breaking out, nations turning against each other, and natural disasters ravaging the earth. Floods swept through homes, earthquakes shattered cities, and fires consumed entire regions. Jesus said, "These are the signs foretold. The earth groans under the weight of sin, and the time of shaking has begun. Nations will rise against nations, kingdoms against kingdoms. These are the birth pains, but many are blind to what is coming." I felt a crushing sorrow as I saw people clinging to material possessions, desperate to protect their wealth, yet unable to save their souls. They store treasures on earth, Jesus said, where moth and rust destroy, instead of treasures in heaven. Then the most terrifying vision unfolded. I saw a one-world government rise from the ashes of the chaos, promising peace and security. People rejoiced as a leader emerged, charismatic and seemingly benevolent. He spoke of unity, of solving the world's problems, and many believed him. But Jesus warned me, this is the great deception. He comes not in my name, but in the name of the enemy. His words are sweet, but his intentions are bitter, and through him, the mark will be enforced. I saw people lining up to receive the mark on their foreheads or hands. Some hesitated, questioning, but the pressure was immense. Those who refused were ostracized, cut off from society, unable to buy or sell. Families were torn apart, friends betrayed each other, and the faithful were persecuted. Jesus turned to me, his face filled with sorrow. The mark is not just a physical sign, it is a spiritual allegiance. To take it is to reject me and embrace the enemy's lies. But those who stand firm in their faith, who trust in my name, will inherit eternal life. Warn them, Rachel. Warn them not to be deceived, for the cost is greater than they can bear. Just as the darkness seemed unbearable, the vision changed. I saw a small group of believers gathered in a humble room, praying fervently. Their prayers rose like flames, piercing through the darkness, and then a great light descended. Jesus smiled, his face radiant with hope. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there among them. Though the enemy rages, my spirit will be poured out on all flesh. Sons and daughters will prophesy, the young will see visions, and the old will dream dreams. I saw revival breaking out across the world, people turning to God in droves, their hearts burning with love and faith. Miracles abounded, and the faithful were strengthened, even in the face of persecution. The darkness will not prevail, Jesus said. My light will shine in the hearts of those who seek me. Tell them to remain steadfast, to pray without ceasing, and to love one another as I have loved them. The visions faded, and I was once again standing in the radiant light of the heavenly realm. Jesus looked at me with a mixture of love and urgency. Rachel, the time is near. The enemy's plans are advancing, but my people must not fear. Tell them to be vigilant, to discern the truth through my word. Remind them that I have overcome the world. He paused, his gaze piercing yet tender. The choice is theirs, life or death, truth or deception. But they must choose now, for the days ahead will test their faith like never before. As his word settled in my heart, he reached out and placed his hand on my shoulder. Go, Rachel, share what you have seen. Do not be afraid, for I am with you always. In an instant, I was back in my body, gasping for breath. The weight of the revelations was overwhelming, but my heart was filled with a sense of purpose. Jesus had revealed the shocking truth about the mark of the beast, and now it was my mission to share it with the world. My journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. As I stood in the presence of Jesus, the weight of the revelations he had shown me still pressed heavily on my heart. The visions of suffering, of the mark of the beast, and of the coming darkness were enough to leave anyone shaken to their core. Yet even in the midst of all that, there was one thing that stood out more than anything else: the light. Despite the terrifying images, there was a constant thread of hope that ran through everything he showed me. In the darkest moments, when the world seemed to be teetering on the edge of collapse, there was always a glimmer of divine light. That light wasn't just a beacon in the distance, it was a light that resided in the hearts of those who truly sought him. Jesus showed me that even when the world seemed hopeless, he was always present, working through ordinary people to bring about revival. It's so easy to get caught up in the chaos around us. We look at the headlines, hear the stories of suffering, and feel like we are powerless to make a difference. But that's not the truth. Every small act of kindness, every prayer offered in faith, every moment spent seeking the Lord is a part of the great revival that is happening right now. I saw it in the faces of those who had nothing but faith to hold on to. In the middle of disaster, when the world was crumbling, they were the ones who held the line. They didn't have riches or power, but they had something far greater, the peace of God that passes all understanding. They knew that no matter what happened on this earth, they were secure in His love. I think back to a woman I met just a few months ago. She lived in a small apartment, barely making ends meet. Yet she had a joy about her that was contagious. She would spend hours volunteering at the local shelter, serving those who had been cast aside by society. One evening, after serving food to a group of homeless men, she pulled me aside. With tears in her eyes, she said, "I don't have much, but what I do have, I give to others. I may not change the world, but if I can make just one person feel loved, then it's worth it." Her words have stayed with me ever since. In that moment, she showed me something powerful. It doesn't take much to be part of God's work on earth. Each small step of faith, each act of kindness, adds up in ways we can't always see. Sometimes we think we have to do something big to make a difference, but God uses the small, the humble, and the faithful to bring about His greatest work. That is the kind of revival I saw in those visions. It wasn't just about grand movements or headlines. It was about individual lives, changed by the power of God, each one doing their part to spread love, truth, and light in the world. The question is not whether God is working, it's whether we are willing to be a part of it. Are we willing to allow His light to shine through us, no matter how small the action may seem? There are so many ways we can prepare for the days ahead, and they don't have to be complicated. First and foremost, it begins with prayer. Prayer is not just a ritual, it is the way we communicate with God, the way we draw near to Him and align our hearts with His will. We must pray for wisdom, for discernment, and for strength to endure the trials that are coming. But we must also pray for others, those who do not yet know the truth, those who are lost in darkness, and those who are suffering. When we pray, we open ourselves up to God's power, allowing Him to work in and through us. Forgiveness is another crucial step. In the midst of trials, it's easy to become bitter, to hold on to grudges, and to let anger take root. But Jesus showed me that forgiveness is a key to freedom. The enemy would love for us to stay trapped in the pain of the past, to allow resentment to fester in our hearts. But forgiveness isn't just for the person who wronged us. It's for our own healing. It's about releasing the chains that bind us and opening ourselves up to the fullness of God's love. When we forgive, we free ourselves to live in the peace and joy that only He can give. And then there are the small, everyday acts of kindness. It's easy to get caught up in our own lives, focusing on our own problems and struggles. But God calls us to love our neighbors, to see those around us through His eyes, and to serve them with His heart. Maybe it's offering a helping hand to someone in need, speaking a word of encouragement to someone who is struggling, or simply showing up when someone needs a friend. These actions may seem small, but they have the power to change lives. And in doing so, we participate in the great revival that is unfolding around us. I remember a time when I felt completely overwhelmed. Life had dealt me a heavy blow, and I didn't know how to keep going. But then, one day, a friend called me out of the blue. She didn't know what I was going through, but she told me that she had been praying for me. That simple act of love, of someone thinking of me in the midst of her own busy life, brought me to tears. It reminded me that we are never alone, even when we feel isolated. There are people out there, working quietly in the background, spreading God's love in ways we may never see. But those small acts have an eternal impact. It's easy to become overwhelmed when we think about the challenges ahead. The world may seem to be spiraling out of control, and the warnings we've seen may fill us with fear. But the truth is, we are not called to walk in fear. Jesus has already won the victory, and He is with us every step of the way. Yes, the days ahead will be challenging, but they are also an opportunity for the people of God to rise up and shine like never before. So, I urge you, don't let fear paralyze you. Take action. Begin with prayer. Seek God's guidance. Forgive those who have wronged you. Love those around you, even when it's difficult. Each day, take small steps toward becoming the person God has called you to be. The world may be in chaos, but God is still on His throne, and His plan is unfolding exactly as He intended. And remember, it is not too late. No matter where you are in life, no matter how far you've fallen, God's grace is sufficient. He is always ready to forgive, to restore, and to use you for His glory. Don't wait for the perfect moment or the right circumstances. Step out in faith today and allow Him to use you in ways you never thought possible. This is our moment. The world may be falling apart, but the kingdom of God is advancing, and we have a part to play. So, let us rise. Let us be the light in the darkness, and let us share the hope of Christ with all those who are lost. It's time to step into our destiny, to live out the call He has placed on our lives, and to be the hands and feet of Jesus in a broken world. Now, more than ever, the world needs to see the love of Christ in action. Will you answer the call? Will you be part of the revival that is already beginning? The choice is yours. As I stand here today, reflecting on everything I've experienced, I am forever changed. The visions, the divine revelations, the warning signs, they've all shaped my understanding of what truly matters. It's not just about the chaos unfolding around us, the headlines that scream of disaster, or the darkness that threatens to overtake us. No, it's about the light that shines through each one of us when we choose to follow God's call. When we choose to step into His plan, we become part of something far greater than ourselves. I never expected to find myself at the center of such a profound journey. It started with a single moment, one that could have been easily overlooked. But that moment led me to a deeper understanding of who I am, of who we all are, in the eyes of God. The urgency of the message He shared with me was undeniable. This world is spiraling into chaos, and time is running out. But with every revelation came hope. There is still time, but we must act now. I saw a vision of the world, of wars, natural disasters, and spiritual complacency, and I felt the weight of it all. It seemed so overwhelming, like a flood that would sweep us all away. But even in that moment of despair, I felt God's presence, His peace. His love for us is immeasurable, and His desire for us to turn back to Him is even greater. It was in those moments of darkness that I realized the truth, the mark of the beast, the chaos, the evil. It is all part of the enemy's plan to distract and destroy. But God's plan is greater. He is calling His people to rise up, to live in the light, to be a beacon of hope in this broken world. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this: the time for complacency is over. We cannot afford to wait any longer. The world is desperate for the truth, for the light that only Jesus can bring. He revealed the shocking truth about the mark of the beast, about the choices we will face in the days to come, and about the urgent need for us to stand firm in our faith. But He also revealed something else: His love, His grace, and His promise of redemption. No matter how dark things get, there is always hope. There is always a way back to Him. Now, it's up to us. We have a choice to make. Will we continue to live as we always have, distracted by the noise of this world? Or will we heed the warnings, rise to the call, and live as people who know the truth? The time to make that decision is now. There is no more room for hesitation. I challenge you today. Take a long, hard look at your life. Where are you placing your hope? Where are you putting your trust? The world may seem like it's falling apart, but God is still in control. His kingdom is unshakable, and His plans for us are good. It's time to live with urgency, to take action, and to spread His light in the world. The question is, are you ready to answer the call? Are you ready to be part of the revival that is already happening? Jesus is waiting, and he is ready to use you in ways you can't even imagine. The time is now. Will you step into your destiny and let him work through you? The choice is yours. But remember, the urgency of the hour is real. It's time to rise, to shine, and to be the hands and feet of Jesus in this world. Will you take that step today?